Well, g'day and welcome to a very interesting episode of Kiwi Car Life, because today we are comparing my 2006 Honda Accord Euro S to this kindly donated 2006 Honda Accord Euro R. Let's start off by comparing some of the exterior differences, starting here at the front. First of all, the Euro S has a chrome grille, whereas the Euro R has a sort of black honeycomb style grille. Also, the Euro R has a slightly different bumper with these sort of streaks down here by the fog lights. And then round the back, the Euro R has a body coloured panel between the exhaust tips, and the Euro S has a sort of quite nice looking black plastic bit. And then the final difference, of course, is the wheels. The Euro R has some 17-inch 5 twin spoke wheels, and the Euro S comes with 17-inch 9 spoke wheels. Now, I changed the wheels out on mine, but I'll overlay the footage of what the wheels would look like if this was stock. Now, the next notable difference is the engine. The Euro R has a K20, 2 litre, 162 kilowatt at 8,000 RPM, 206 Newton meter at 7,000 RPM, absolute screamer of an engine. Now, my car has a K24 A3, it makes 140 kilowatt at 6,800 RPM and 233 Newton meters of torque at 4,500 RPM. In this case, they are both paired with 6-speed manual transmissions. However, the Euro R does have shorter ratios, and it also happens to have a limited slip diff, which the Euro S does not. So on the interior front, with these two cars being basically identical, there isn't too much to choose between them. Euro R's got some really nice, quite aggressively bolstered green Recaro seats, whereas the Euro S just has some normal charcoal velour Honda seats. The Euro R also has a really nice Momo steering wheel. The gauge clusters are a little different as well. The Euro R here has a red theme. Over in that Euro S, it has more of a sort of blue, red and white theme. The rest of the interior is really rather similar. The radio and climate control in this car is basically identical. The Euro R has this lovely metal shift knob, whereas the Euro S has a sort of plastic and leather shift knob. The back seats in both cars carry over the theme of the front, with this one having that sort of green tinge to it, whereas that car has the velour trim. So finally, we're going to talk about the steering, suspension and brakes. And the steering is actually a very interesting one. I didn't realise, but in fact the Euro R has electric power steering, whereas the Euro S has the good old-fashioned hydraulic power steering. The brakes, as far as I'm aware, are pretty much identical. I can't really tell any difference between them. And finally, the suspension. Now, both of these cars have a McPherson strut in front and double wishbone in the rear. However, the Euro R from factory does have slightly firmer damper settings, but that's irrelevant for these two cars because this car is sitting on JMX super low lowering springs and this car is sitting on Tein S-Tech lowering springs. So next, let's get into the more interesting stuff. We're going to start off by looking at the 0 to 100 times, and then I'm going to get into some of the more sort of differences in the driving dynamics. Okay, first we're going to try the Euro R for 0 to 60 time. I've got my trusty stopwatch here, so let's see what we can do. That's pretty quick. That was 7.2 seconds. Okay, here we are in my Accord Euro S, traction off, stopwatch ready. Let's see what we can do. Dang, I'm actually quite surprised. We did a 7.6. Okay, so now we're going to discuss some of the driving experiences of these two cars. Let's see how she goes. That sound is so good. Oh my. And you want to overtake someone? Here we go. For just a family sedan, man, that noise puts such a smile on your face. Okay, here we go. On a nice winding road, let's see how this thing drives. Ah, that engine is so good. And out of corners, yep, limited slip diff. Absolutely hauls you out of corners, man. Handling is so good, and on power out of corners. The mid-range torque, man, if you're over 4,000 or 5,000 RPM, you're alright. But if you're not, you know, it does kind of struggle a little bit. Like here, for instance, right, if you put your foot down in third gear, you're kind of waiting. See, when you hit about 5,000, then you start to feel it sort of come on cam. But below that, doesn't have too much to give. This takes everything fantastic about my Integra and my Accord and combines them together and makes it brilliant. Limited slip diff, close ratio 6-speed box, K20A engine. It's a tasty, tasty car, this, man. I like this very much indeed. Here we are now in my lovely Honda Accord Euro S, and oh my goodness, these seats are so much more comfortable. They're actually like squashy, whereas the Recaro seats are like sitting on rocks. The ride comfort, even with these lowering springs, is definitely better, obviously just down to the softer dampers. And then from there, motorway on-ramp, first gear power, long gears, and car, so we'll slow down. But yeah, man, the gears are really, really long on this car. There we go, we're off, come on. But the mid-range power is nice on this car, you know, and cruise control, mate. The Euro R doesn't have that. Still easy as to heel toe. Man, these RE003 tyres are so good. Here we go, out of the corner. You know, and this thing goes, man. This is still a mighty rapid car. So in conclusion, did I make the right choice in buying the Euro S now that I've driven both cars? In my mind, yes I did. You know, I sold my Integra because I complained that it was too uncomfortable and it didn't have cruise control. This does both of those things very well. The Euro R, I feel like it's just, for me, kind of more the same as what I had with my Integra, where it's fun, it's fast, it sounds great, but seats are pretty uncomfortable if I'm honest, and it doesn't have things like cruise control. However, if you don't care about comfort and you don't care about cruise control like me, just buy the Euro R. It's a better car, it's got the limited slip diff, it's got a much more interesting, lively engine, it's faster, it's more recognised among the car community, so just buy one of them. Well, there you go. Thank you very much for watching this episode of Kiwi Car Life, and I will look forward to seeing you again next time.